Good morning, students. Let's start with the testing phase now, which is a part of fourth unit. So we have completed with the requirements, designing, coding, and now we'll start with the testing phase. So once the coding is over, there comes the task of testing. So what do you mean by testing is? Testing is a process of executing a program with the intent of finding errors. So what is the main aim? Our aim is to find the errors. We don't have to check their absence, if this error is not present. Anyhow, we have to try to identify maximum possible of errors, right? So we have seen there are few objectives of testing, like making our software error free, to check whether all the user requirements are fulfilled or not, whether it is in conformance to the quality standards and designing of the test cases, right? Now, in continuation with all that, we'll be seeing few more concepts relevant to testing here. So testing a program consists of providing the program with a set of test inputs, also called as test cases, and observing if the program behaves as expected. That is simply the user requirements are being fulfilled or not. It is going to behave as per the expectation. So if the program fails to behave as expected, then the conditions under which failure occurs are noted for later debugging and correction. So debugging is a process of locating the error, and correction is to eliminate the error once the exact location of the error is identified, right? Testing provides a practical way of reducing defects in a system and increases the user's confidence in a developed system. So what does it mean? It means that testing is like, you cannot say that complete testing is possible, will remove all the errors and 100% testing can be achieved. It is practically not possible. What we do is we try to reduce the defects whichever is present in the system as far as possible in the given constraints, right? That means complete testing is not done. We only go for exhaustive testing, that is effective testing is required to be done. Effective testing is testing only the most prior, you can say, the errors that needs to be eliminated. Maybe priority based on the requirements could be, priority given by the customers could be there, priority based on the risk factors could be there, and also depends upon the constraints. Say time and cost constraint is there. So within that time and cost constraint, whatever is possible based on priority, we eliminate the errors. So instead of removing all the errors, we only focus on the most prior and the important ones due to resource constraints. So once you eliminate it, since you are moving according to the customer, whichever he wants, you are testing that and fulfilling his expectation. So his confidence also increases in the developed system that it is going to fulfill his desired functionality. So this is what the basics of testing is. Now there are few terminologies which should be known to us while we study the testing. There are few terms like error, mistake, bug, fault, and failure. So what do you mean by an error first? A good synonym is a mistake, right? This may be a syntax error or the misunderstanding of a specification. Sometimes there are logical errors also. So errors are something which are created by the human being, the human mistakes actually, right? Say for example, I'm going to build a program and I forget to write or include the header file, right? So this is, who does this? Who has done this? This has been done by human beings. So that is an error, right? Or a mistake. When developers make mistakes while coding, we call these mistakes as bugs. So specifically we are talking about for the software development industry, when the developer makes such type of mistakes while coding, that is relevant to coding phase, these errors are actually known as bugs. Then what is a fault? A fault is a representation of an error. Representation of an error means, say I haven't included the header file and I compile the program, definitely errors will come. So I didn't wrote stdio.h. So what will happen? All the lines with printf and scanf will give the error because header file is not there. So due to that error or the mistake done by the human being, several faults appear in your program, right? So that is a fault. Fault is also sometimes known as a defect, right? Then what is failure then? So beyond fault, there is a failure, right? So a failure, simply you say it is a manifestation of an error, right? Due to error, faults occur, and if the faults are not eliminated, it leads to failure, right? This is the sequence: error, fault, and failure. Due to error, faults appear, and if the faults are not eliminated, not able to eliminate it, it leads to a failure that will be rendered useless. So failure occurs when a fault executes. A particular fault may cause different failures depending upon how it has been exercised. Or a failure is a manifestation of an error or defect or a bug, but the mere presence of an error may not necessarily lead to failure, right? So that depends upon the criticality, which type of error or fault has been present in the system. So it may lead to failure or it may not lead to failure. Now, few more concepts, that is a test case. So previously also in the lectures we have discussed about the test case. A test case is nothing, it's the input data, but it is a properly designed set of input which checks the complete behavior of the system at one go. So it's not a single input. It consists of a triplet which consists of the input I, right? S is the state of the system, right? And O is the expected output. So it is represented this way, while test case is simply a set of inputs to check the complete behavior of the system. We'll work on this further in the next lecture. Now what is a test suite? Test suite is nothing, it is a collection of test cases. So we never check for one test case, we take multiple test cases, at least 5 or 10 test cases, in order to get an approximate, nearer to an exact result. So test case is applicable there. Now, two terms which we have discussed earlier also, verification and validation. So verification is a process of determining whether the output of one phase of software development conforms to that of its previous phase, right? So that is systematically one phase. So we have a sequence of phases, one after the other. So we have to check its conformance with the previous phase. The aim of verification is phase containment of error. Phase containment of error means to identify the error either in the same phase where it has been created, not in the later phases, else the error will be propagated to other phases also and it will become more complex. More effort will be required to eliminate the error from the subsequent phases. So phase containment is either in the same phase or nearer to that phase. Try to contain that error then and there itself. Now what is validation? Validation is the process of determining whether a fully developed system conforms to its requirement specification. So actually validation is the testing which is carried out after coding phase to determine whether all the requirement specification are being met or not. The aim of validation is that the final product be error free. Now what are the different types of testing? We have two types of testing, the black box testing or the functional testing, and the second one is a white box testing or a glass box testing or a structural testing. These are the interchangeable names. So simply what is a black box testing? Where we are going to check the functions present in the SRS document, whether they are being fulfilled or not. So as the name suggests, it is functional testing because we are going to check the functions present in the SRS document, right? Why black box? Because we are not able to view the inner level details of the code. Simply we give the input to the system and we check the corresponding output, whether functional wise it is correct or not, right? While white box testing, as the name suggests, is a white. That means a transparent box. That means we are able to view each line of the code and we can check the error present in the code. That is why we call it as structural testing. The structure of the code is visible to the human beings. They can view each statement and if there is any error, we go on eliminating it. We also call it as a glass box as it is transparent in nature. Okay. Then there are few levels of testing. The first one is the unit testing, integration testing, system testing, which is further divided into alpha, beta and acceptance testing. So unit testing is checking each unit in isolation for the error in each and every module. So that is, unit is a module here. So we'll be checking each and every module for the error. Which type of error? We'll be checking the coding errors here. Then integration testing is to integrate the modules and check for the interface errors. Now this integration is done in a gradual way. That means we don't integrate all the modules at one go. Step by step we add one module and then we test it, then add the third module, then we test it, adding the fourth module, then we test it, and then, until and unless all the modules are integrated and tested. We check for the interface errors here. Interface are basically relevant to the design errors, right? Then system testing is to check the overall system whether it meets the all the user requirements or the performance requirement and everything has been fulfilled or not, which is done in three ways: alpha testing, beta testing, and acceptance testing. So alpha testing is checking the development team members test this type, like other than the coder, we ask the development team members to perform the alpha testing, right? Beta testing is done by the potential users or the friendly set of customers. These like alpha testing is done in the development environment, while beta testing is carried out in the customers or the end users environment. While acceptance testing is carried out by the actual customer who has given us the software to build, right? And he works on the real world data and check whether all his requirements have been fulfilled. Once he is satisfied, he makes the decision of accepting it. That is why, like, two possibilities are there, whether to accept it or to reject it. So if he's satisfied, so we call it as acceptance testing. He is going to accept it. But if he's not satisfied, he might reject it or ask for the modification also, right? So these are the levels that we have already discussed in the first few lectures. Now coming up to basically the important part, that is test case design approach, right? So test case design approaches are two depending upon the type. The first one is a black box approach and the second one is a white box approach, right? So we'll be discussing these two in detail and we have number of methods according to both of these approaches. So what do you mean by a black box testing approach? Test cases are designed using only the functional specification of the software. That means test cases are designed according to functional specification to check the functional requirement, right? Without any knowledge of the internal structure of the software. While white box testing, we design the test cases require thorough knowledge about the internal structure of the software, that is the code. So prior to these approaches, let's move according to the sequence. The first one is a unit testing, right? So what do you mean by a unit testing? Is the testing of different units of a system in isolation. So everyone remembers the term isolation. That means you have to separate a module from that module dependency graph and check it individually without assuming that it is connected to some other modules. So it is practically not possible. It seems it is not practically possible because definitely modules are linked to each other. So what we do is we create an environment to perform this unit testing in isolation, that is known as unit test environment. So what is a unit test environment? See here, this is a unit test environment. Say I want to test a module, that is known as module under test, right? Say some intermediate, say M1 is the root module which is broken down into M2 and M3, then M2 is broken down into M4 and M5, right? So I'm going to test M2 module. So in order to test this M2 module in isolation, what is required? We require some module at the top, like in the actual system it was M1 who was calling the function of this M2 module, right? Now we don't have to consider the other modules. Isolation means only module which is under test has to be considered, but its functionality can only be achieved when some module is calling its functionality through some parameters, or this module is calling functions of the modules which are present below it. Now since you are not taking the actual module, we will be taking the dummy module. The one which is at the top is known as a driver module, which is a dummy module simulating the functionality of M1 module. While we have a dummy module at the bottom, that is a stub module, which is going to simulate the functionalities of M4 and M5, which was present below this M2 module. So we took two dummy modules. One is a driver module in place of the top modules, and the stub modules for the below or the lower modules. Then we externally take the global data which is being shared between different modules. So a unit test environment consists of module under test, a driver module, a stub module, and the global data. So what is represented here? We require module under test. We require the non-local data structures that access, that is the global variable simply, and we require the procedures to call the function of the module under test with appropriate parameters, right? So we need all the driver and the stub modules. Now what are driver and stub? Simply, right, a stub procedure is a dummy procedure that has the same input output parameter as the given procedure. A driver, it contains the non-local data structures accessed by the module under test and would also have the code to call the different functions of the module with appropriate, right. This driver is going to call the values. Stub, this will be called by the module under test. Now, the techniques according to the black box testing. So black box testing, we are known to this. Simply directly switching to the test case design approach according to black box. There are two types of approaches for designing the test cases. The one is an equivalence class partitioning and the second one is a boundary value analysis. So what do you mean by equivalence class partitioning? Equivalence class partitioning is, say I want to test a system whose input values are very large, right? So if I go on testing for all the input values, it becomes practically impossible because the input domain tends to infinite. So what we do is we divide this input domain into equivalence classes. Equivalence classes means a class will have the values, all those set of inputs which shows the similar behavior. I'll make second class, all the inputs which are put under this class will have the same behavior. So based on the behavior, we divide our input domain into equivalence classes. Equivalence classes simply having the same behavior. So the main idea behind defining the equivalence class is that testing the code with any one value belonging to an equivalence class is as good as testing the software with any other value belonging to that equivalence class. That means, say, if I have a class 1 and it has 10 inputs, right? So if I test with just one input, it will give the same behavior. If I check for 10th input, it will also give the same behavior. So it's not required to check for all the 10 inputs. Only one or two are practically good enough. So equivalence classes for a software can be designed by examining the input data and the output data. Now, we have to make these equivalence classes. So there are certain guidelines for making these equivalence class. There are basically two. If you have the value in the form of range of values, in that case we'll have one valid class for the given value and two invalid classes for beyond the range value, right? Two invalid classes, like if we are checking for 0 to 5000, so I'll have one class for 0 to 5000, another class for less than 0 and third class for greater than 5000. So two invalid classes, that is beyond the range. While if the inputs are given in the form of discrete numbers of values, so in that case we'll have just two classes, one for valid and one for invalid input. So valid will have the discrete number which is given in the question or the problem, while all the other values except the given value will be in the invalid class. They will exhibit the same behavior. So let's assume an example. Say, for a software that computes the square root of an input integer, which can assume values in the range 0 to 5000, right? So range, it is given in the form of a range, right? And we were supposed to calculate square root of an input integer. So as per the guideline, since it is given in the form of range, we'll be having three classes: a set of negative integer, that is less than 0, a set of integers between 0 to 5000, that is a valid range, and an integer greater than 5000, that is beyond the range. So we'll be having three classes here, right? Now, therefore the test case must include representative for each of the three equivalence classes. That means when we are supposed to design a test case, we must take input from each class. So let's assume, so from class 1 I took one negative value, one in the given range and one beyond the range. So this becomes one test case. So test case, I defined it earlier, is a set of input that checks the complete behavior of the system at one go. So it's not a single input, it is a set of input. Set of input what? One value from each class. That makes a test case, right? Set of inputs. And if you apply this test case to your system, your program will be tested for all the three behaviors. That is, for the negative value, what should be the response, for the given range, what should be the response, and for the greater values, what should be the response. So all the three criterias or the behaviors will be tested at one time only. Now if I take like 5 to 10 test cases of similar kind, I can make more. The collection will be known as test suite. Now another method, it's not actually a separate method, it is just, you can say, a modified version of previous method, that is equivalence class partitioning, right? So what is done here is, normally the errors occurs at the boundary, like if we have in the form of a range. So I'll write like, let's assume the example here. I'll write for the class 1, which is for negative value, I'll write less than 0, right? So instead of less than, mistakenly I can type this as less than equal to, or I was supposed to type it as less than equal to, mistakenly I can type it as less than. So this is what in human or the typing errors, you can say typographical errors. Like similarly, a greater than could be greater than equal to, or greater than equal to can be written as greater than. So these type of commonly mistakes are there which occurs at the boundaries, and normally it happens, right? So considering this type of errors which are very frequent, so we have designed this method simply, which says that, say if the same problem is taken here, the test case, if we design according to this, we have to externally include the boundary values, right? So here we have like one value from negative class, right? One value, it will be actually, this is an arrow. One value is 0, or you can take any negative value, right? Okay, how it is written is, it just sequence is opposite. One value for -1, that is negative value. So class 1 is there, right? Then second value I am taking a greater than, that is 5. 001 greater than 5000. Now what we are doing is, instead of taking one value for the valid range, that was 0 to 5000, we were supposed to take one value as per equivalence class partitioning. But according to boundary value analysis, instead of one, we'll be taking two values, that is at the boundaries. So first boundary is 0, second boundary is 5000. So the test case will have four values. One is a negative value, another is a greater value, and for the intermediate value in the given range, I am taking two values, one for the left hand side boundary, another for the right hand side boundary. So externally the boundary values are taken here and tested for that. So the errors which were created at the boundaries can easily be eliminated due to this. So these are the two methods for white box approach for designing the test cases. Now in the next lecture, we will be discussing about the white box approaches tomorrow. Fine. Thank you for today.